Hello and welcome to what I'm calling the creator economy versus academia. As you can see, this is Old Joe. We're on my old university campus. This is the University of Birmingham. Isn't she beautiful? I love this campus so much. I graduated 12 years ago. I studied history, but I am back because I am on the university's Creative Industries Advisory Board. The university have two new courses, a BA and an MA in digital media and the creative industries, and they put together a little advisory board of Birmingham people, of alumni who work in the industries to advise them. Be like, is this course appropriate? Is it accurate to what our students will need and find in the real world in the creative industries? Today our meeting is in the music building, which is just over there, which I only ever went in once whilst I was a student here, so I'm very excited to get a bit more of a tour and a feel for the music stuff here. But it is not just this university that we are visiting in this video. No. Next week I am going up to the University of Leeds for a research workshop that is all about influencers and the creator economy and ad regulations. Oh yeah. And then after the University of Leeds, another opportunity has actually come up whilst I've been filming this video, that is giving feedback on the UK's first ever creator marketing qualification. I believe it's being done by like a marketing advertising body, but it's in connection with the University of Essex. So we can lump that in to this video as well. We're going to be given feedback on a creator marketing qualification. And I find this stuff fascinating because I am somebody who works in the creative industries. I'm a creator, a content creator, a YouTuber, an influencer, whatever title you want to give me, it's fine. And I find it really interesting to think about my experiences as somebody who is working on the ground in the industries versus what academia thinks about it. What are the people who are researching influencers and creators thinking and saying? What is their understanding of the world that I am living in? So we're just going to explore all these different themes. I'm going to see what the academics and the researchers are saying about me and my peers. Will I go back to university and study this? No, probably not. But I enjoy being the person who has connections with universities and researchers and then talks about them in my videos. But I will leave the actual researching up to the people who enjoy being academics. That beautiful thing over there is the music building, and so I need to go and find the room. Old Joe tells me that I've got 10 minutes until I have to be there. It is bad luck to walk under this clock tower whilst it rings. If you do, you will fail your degree. And it rings 4 times an hour, quarter past, on the hour, half past, all of that. So have I ever walked under this even though I've graduated now? Will I ever walk under this? Absolutely not. No. Creative Industries Advisory Board done. This is my friend Ellie. If you don't know, we went to uni together, and whenever I'm in Birmingham, we hang out and I stay with her. So today, did you ever go into the music building at uni?
I don't think I did. No offence. I don't think I did.
Well, today I got a whole tour of it.
How is it?
There's like a whole concert room in there, and every Friday lunchtime they put on free concerts for students and just for the wider community.
What?
A show had just finished when we got there, and granted it was mostly older people who were all there, like retired, free time, and I'm like, my god though, this is like here and it's free and like
free concert.
Amazing. But yeah, it was very cool to see the facilities. I played the drums.
Well,
no, not at all. And then we had our advisory board meeting, and it's really interesting because it's like how do we as a university, with the creative industries department and programs, actually plug into the industries, like for students, like opportunities and experiences for them and connections. And
is that things like internships or things like placements, or
all of that kind of stuff, like internships, placements, but just also like knowledge sharing, mentoring. And so that's kind of like the, I guess, more like experience side of things. But then also there's then the research side of things, which is a whole other ball game. But it's just really interesting because like one of the people on the board, like there's lots of professors and academics on the board, and then there's a few of us who are like in the industry, and one of the professors, her like area is about like research from universities, and then it's like real world application and like impact on the public, because I think there's like so much going on at unis that it just feels very separate a lot of the time, or it takes like decades for
it to disseminate everywhere else.
Exactly. With the creative industries, it's a interesting one as well, because yes, I'm on the board and I'm kind of like semi there to also like put forward the best public face of the university. I mean, it's a volunteer position, I'm not being paid for full transparency, but obviously I do think what they're doing is amazing, and the facilities that they have are incredible, like, but you're still paying like $9,000 a year for that, when a lot of the things that they're learning, and many people aren't going to university for those jobs that people are then going on to do. And so it's just a very interesting thing to navigate.
A lot of people get experience in the field, kind of like how you started in YouTube. You didn't actually train in YouTube, you just kind of got into it.
But also being at uni helped me because I had like the freedom and time. To play and have a hobby, and then like have a part-time job. But also it's such a funny thing because it is like about access, and like if you went somewhere like the University of Birmingham to do their digital media and creative industries degree, you'd have access to so many amazing like resources and tools and expertise and all of this stuff. But also a lot of that stuff has been democratized by the internet. Saying that, there is still huge disparity, especially when it comes to like my industry, so like creators and influencers. Whilst we like to think the fact that social media has democratized everything, it is still like white middle class people who end up rising to the top, per se.
Because anyone with a phone can make videos, but actually to make the good quality and to have the editing and the
time and the energy,
it's very expensive to actually get started with that.
Yeah, but
then, and like you say, having the time to not have a job and to be able to create.
It's like what's more inaccessible? Industry connections versus like a $9,000 a year degree.
I mean, at least you can get a loan for that, even though you'll never pay it off, and you'll have extortion.
I'm about to pay off my student loan.
You're not.
Yeah.
What? How? Okay, I'm not asking questions.
But we were the last year of
shackled to
$3,000 fees. I don't know how much I can say like specifically about what was spoken about in the meeting, but like some of the ideas that were thrown around for like things and events and stuff going on. I'm like, yes. You're a primary school teacher, obviously.
I am.
Your kids that you teach are way off university student age. But what jobs do they want to do?
Lots of them, when you ask, they want to be TikTokers, influencers, footballers. Those are the big ones at the moment.
Football is still up there.
Yeah. I did have one child in year 5 say they wanted to be a gynaecologist. All power to them. Well done.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was exciting.
Do they have a parent who's a gynaecologist?
I don't even think so. I have no idea where they got it from. But fair play.
Yeah.
At least it's something different to TikTok. And no offence to TikTokers, obviously. But yeah, lots of them I think they think it's easy, because when you see influencers and creators online, it looks like they're just going, oh, hey, this is my day, and that's it. But actually there's, as I know from you, the planning behind it, the thought process behind it, the editing, the posting, the captions, the responding to the emailing,
running a freelance business as well.
And I think lots of young people don't always see that side of things, and obviously they're children, you would expect
let them have big dreams.
And I think a lot of them do consume a lot of online content, a lot. One big change I've seen over the 10-ish years is attention span of children. It's really, you're fighting for your life out there, it's a song and dance, la la la
Yeah.
Because they're so used to quick, bright, colourful, noisy, flick, flick, flick. And so attention span is quite a difficult thing to, even if you're just having a conversation, they suddenly break into a TikTok dance, and I usually try and join in.
I got a 6-7 from Rowan yesterday.
You're one of the...
There's that, but I think he's a year too late.
Yeah,
I think
they're a little bit over it.
Yeah, but nursery kids, and it's now trickled down to them. So he was very excited. He was like 6-7, and I was like, okay.
My class were very obsessed with it, so I started doing it, which made it not cool, and they stopped doing it. Excellent. Top tip for anyone out there.
Smart. The creator economy versus academia continues. I stayed in a lovely hotel last night and heading off to the University of Leeds this morning. I have not set foot on the University of Leeds campus since I went to one of the open days when I was about 17 years old. I cannot for the life of me remember what it looks like, other than it's a city campus, whereas like Birmingham is like an off-city campus. But today I'm taking part in a research workshop about influencers and advertising regulations. And that may sound boring, but no, it's gonna be thrilling, or at least maybe I've got like high expectations for this workshop. But I just feel like I've got so much to say about ad regulations and this industry. It's something that impacts what I do. It impacts my relationship with my audience. I think it's something that impacts all of us as consumers of online content and people who follow influencers and content creators. It's also a really interesting and juicy topic because, at least from my perspective, it often feels like there are different standards that influencers are held to versus, say, journalists, PR, traditional celebrities, reality TV stars. It can often feel like even when we're all working in the same medium, we're held to different standards and different rules apply. And that isn't even touching on the global nature of all of it, because many of my American counterparts have a different set of rules entirely, but we're all like on the same internet. And so I had a thing recently where I was part of a campaign with a brand, and I had to disclose in a certain way because I wanted to like follow the ASA guidelines. And I was seeing everybody else's posts, a lot of Americans, and they were not disclosing in the same way because legally they don't have to. And I was looking at their content and I was like, if I was just your average viewer, I would not know that you were paid to make this. There's no indication whatsoever. So, very interested to learn about what the academics want to know. Like, what is their angle? What is the thing that they are interested in researching? What is it that they want to know from us? I don't know how much I'm going to be able to film once I'm there because, you know, it's a university. There are ethical considerations when they run research with participants. So I probably won't be able to film any of the workshop itself, but I might be able to talk to some people if they consent. But before we head, let's do a little hotel room tour. I maybe should have done the tour when I first arrived and it was all tidy and clean, but this is my lovely hotel. Here's the main part of the room. We've got bed, desk. I did my coaching training, sat at this desk last night. No back to my chair. Wasn't a fan of that. But lovely bed. Got our TV console that I managed to Chromecast the Eras tour to. Watched that last night up until the end of Tortured Poets, and then it was time for bed. The view from the window is quite spectacular. There's the lovely view. And then over here, we have the bathroom with no bath. Shower room, but look at that. Had a lovely shower this morning. There we go. There's my hotel room. Had a lovely stay. Okay, I've got 10 minutes before I need to leave. And speaking of influencers and advertising regulations, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. They are paying me money to advertise in this space, but I am also a customer. I am a customer of Squarespace. So, whether you are just starting out in the freelance world or you're a small business owner, Squarespace makes it super easy to create your own beautiful websites, engage your audience, and sell anything from physical and digital products to courses and even your time, all in one place and all on your terms. As I said, I'm a customer in Squarespace and have been for years. I host my main portfolio, hannahwitton.com website there, and I've also hosted many of my various different project and podcast websites over on Squarespace. It is my go-to. It is so easy to use. I have no website design experience and it just makes it so intuitive and accessible. They have loads of different flexible and professional website templates, and you just pick the one that suits your business, your brand, and then you can customize it with all of your own assets and branding and content. It really is that simple. You can pretty much make any template do whatever you want. There's loads of different features that you can add depending on what you need, and all of the templates work seamlessly across multiple different devices. Squarespace's Fluid Engine is a really powerful website design tool. It just allows you to seamlessly drag and drop things around, allowing anyone to get really creative in designing their own website, even with zero website design experience. And if you want to get even more creative, they have a whole suite of visual design tools, and you can use these to create a really engaging website for your audience. There are tons to choose from to suit and match whatever your vibe, your brand is, and they're all ready to plug and play on any Squarespace website. If you have an online store or run a service-based business, then Squarespace Payments and Squarespace Invoicing make all of that. Managing payments, managing clients, and invoicing workflows makes all of that super simple. So if you are in need of a website, you can head to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And then when you're ready to launch into the world, you can go to squarespace.com/morehannah to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And that is the end of the ad segment. And now time to go to a research workshop about advertising regulations in the influencer industry. She's such a nerd. We are on our way back home. Rowan is here, and Nicole!
I don't know what you can see, but hello.
Well, what do we think? Advertising regulations. I feel like I need to disclose. The University of Leeds have paid me not to make this video, but to take part in the workshop. And
I'd be interested in your viewers' thoughts about this. Like, do you understand disclosure of ads? And so, like, ads, sponsored, gifted,
affiliate. Do you know what
affiliate.
that came up? They're like, do the general public know what affiliate links or affiliate marketing is?
Do they know what PR products are and what they mean when people use that terminology versus gifted?
PR event, PR trip, press trip.
Press trip again implies that you are a member of the press, but technically sometimes you are, but sometimes you're not.
Apparently, if you're an influencer, you have to disclose as an ad in the occasion that your sister owns a bakery.
Very specific example.
And hands you a brownie
that was made at the bakery.
that was made at the bakery for free, and you post it on your Instagram. That's a hashtag ad.
Does that feel right, or is that more confusing?
Yeah, because this is the whole thing. The ASA want it to be clear. Like, everyone has to know that something is an advertisement, understand the relationship between the influencer and who's paying them or reimbursing them or giving them a gift of some kind. They want you to put ad on everything.
And at what point do you become an influencer?
Yeah,
At what
who's an
point is
influencer?
you, someone who is posting, I don't know, let's say someone, like, you're posting stuff like your art, you're an illustrator, and you're like, it's just a hobby, but I'm posting, and you draw some fan art, a big fandom, it blows up, and
Someone
you're
sends you
an
some
influencer,
paints.
and someone sends you some paints. At what point do you have to disclose
In every piece of art
In
you
every
make.
piece
For
of
the
art
for
you
the
make.
following 12 months,
Mhm.
you would have to disclose made with
Made
these
with-
paints, hashtag gifted. Not even that doesn't cut it. Add gifted.
Count. It's a tricky one. And I also feel like at the end of it, we left feeling a bit more confused than we started. I feel like because when we started, we were kind of there to give ourselves like a rating between 1 to 10 of like how well do we feel like we're disclosing or how much that we know about the ASA guidelines. And then I felt like at the beginning I felt relatively confident, and then by the time I left I was like, am I actually that confident? I don't think I am.
Because my thing is, all of us in that room wanted to disclose properly, not
Yes.
because we wanted to stay within the bounds of the law, though obviously that's great, but because we were like, we respect our audiences, we want to make sure that they understand what the
course.
business relationships are, like we want to be very transparent, but what we kept coming up against was using those guidelines as they are actually felt less transparent than just being able to, in a clear statement, say this is the relationship I have, or this is how this works.
Exactly.
It's even more confusing to put, because you can't just put gifted technically in the guidance. At least my understanding, you have to put ad gifted, which I think is confusing because ad means something, and I feel like it's more confusing for someone to see the word ad and then see the word gifted and be like, what does that mean?
Because again, an ad to me feels very clear, as in there's money being exchanged. But to then call anything that isn't payment, even though it's payment in kind, for example, to call that an ad then makes everything else even more confusing. Like whether it's product, whether it's a trip, whether it's a hotel stay, whether it's dinner, whether it's, like you're saying, you're a painter and you've been gifted paints, but every time you then use said paints for a year, your content is automatically advertising. It's like, it just makes it all the more confusing.
The example that I think is really interesting, especially for like where is the line of like influencer, was to do with businesses that were friends and family based.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be like, well, if you get free stuff from a brand, then that means you're an influencer.
Right.
But if your sister gives you a free brand from the bakery, technically, if you talked about it online, or if you have a friend who's a musician and you just get like a on the guest list for the door of their gig,
Right.
technically, if you're posting about that,
That's an
regardless,
ad.
I guess that's an ad.
Yeah, I need to be ad guest listing next time
Ad guest list.
next time I go to a Tony gig.
Yeah.
It's a funny one because I feel like I'm very clear in when I disclose things, but then there's also some things that I'm like, that's stupid.
Right, exactly. I feel like I'm the exact same. I feel like, kind of like what you were saying, Rowan, is like, I obviously want to be clear and transparent, and that is something that I personally value in myself and other people. But I also don't like the over declaration to the point that it then just feels like, almost in the same way people are like saying that something isn't an ad. It's kind of like over declaration also implies that like you aren't kind of smart enough to understand like how these dynamics work, and like, I don't know, it feels just very murky to me at that stage.
Yeah, I think it's a symptom of how creators who make content online, which is that's such a huge range, a huge range of content.
Exactly.
How they're seen as like primarily like
Advertising machines.
or commercial or untrustworthy.
Yeah.
In that we were talking about how there's no thought behind the idea of like the aesthetics or the design choices around these disclosures, where it has to, there's not really thought behind the idea of what it's going to look like in a way that a lot of people will be like, well, yeah, no, because that's the, it looking nice doesn't matter and things like that. But actually, if people are creating like art, they're creating short film type content, they're creating like people who are in fashion and they're doing like what is a beautiful editorial shoot.
Yeah.
And then you've got to put like, and then put ad
in the corner.
It's like there has to be some way of balancing it where it doesn't compromise the piece that you put up there, the content, but the viewer still understands like what the relationship is with brands or with finances.
Yeah.
Also, celebrities were included in the ASA guidelines, which, sure, in theory, but I don't know if I see that in practice.
No, I don't think I've ever seen a celebrity tag. They might tag the brands in their posts of like their red carpet outfit on their official social media, but they're not putting hashtag ad gifted.
No.
Imagine if you see that on like Oscar's red carpet.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, didn't pay for this train. Thank you, University.
Oh yeah, no, you have tickets. You didn't just hop on the train for free.
No,
Yeah.
That's different, I think, because we're not being paid by LNER and we weren't paid by the hotel.
Exactly.
It was like expenses paid by the organisation doing the research.
Yeah.
So it did turn out that the workshop at the University of Leeds, it was just us creators in the room, a safe space for us all to be very free with our opinions. But the researchers are doing another workshop later this week with people from brands and from influencer marketing agencies. So I'm very curious to see the research when it comes out in terms of what they say and if it's any different from what creators say about the ad regulations. But tomorrow I'm heading into central London for the workshop giving feedback on this creator marketing qualification, which I'm very curious about in terms of what they are going to think is important to include and maybe some things that aren't included. I don't know. I will report back whatever I can. Unfortunately, we will not be visiting another university's campus. I actually don't know where the University of Essex is within Essex. I don't think I've even ever been to Essex, but alas, we're just going to Soho. Okay, I am back. I couldn't really film anything or anyone in the room. I'm also hoping that you are seeing this when I intended it to go out, because they don't want any news of the qualification out before its official launch. But it was really interesting because I felt like I had revised for that feedback session because of 2 days ago having just read through the ASA guidelines for influencer marketing with the University of Leeds workshop, and then today going through a qualification all about helping creators be more compliant. So I was like SWOT number one in there, being like, this is missing this information and da, da, da. But it was really interesting. Apparently France already has an equivalent qualification for creators. And whilst I have my various issues with the ASA guidelines, I do feel like a course and a qualification like this is something that just further helps to professionalize and standardize the industry, which in general I am for. There was conversations about whether marketers and advertisers and brands that work with creators would have to take this qualification as well. Also, like, what is the actual benefits of a creator taking this qualification other than for their own personal like confidence and knowledge in order to be compliant? So basically like to know how to not get fined or told off or whatever the consequences may be, but also does it act like some kind of stamp of approval that makes you more desirable for brands to work with? Does it make you more trustworthy in the eyes of your audience as well? This whole week has just been really fascinating, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on everything from creative industries and digital media style degrees, whether that's undergrad or postgrad, and your thoughts on them in terms of, are they useful? What makes them useful for students who want to go into the creative industries? Why do a university course over going straight into industry through other routes? I think there's really solid arguments to be made for each different route into the industry, but obviously having a look at like the University of Birmingham's music department, like that's just one part of the equipment, resources, staff, expertise that they have, that you have access to as a student. It's kind of cool. They're not paying me to say that. Oh, speaking of who's paying me to say what, none of these universities or advertising regulatory bodies are telling me to say anything. But as I have learned today, I also probably should disclose the fact that for taking part in that research study today, I get to do the qualification, be one of the first creators in the UK to do the qualification if I want to, for free. So that is a bit of a value exchange there that according to the ASA regulations, I have to disclose. And as audience members, not just of me, but other creators that you might follow online, what are your thoughts as, audience members, as consumers on ad disclosure from creators, from influencers, from celebrities. One big theme that came up in both of the session today and on Tuesday was about having to disclose any of your own personal brand or products as an ad. And somebody said this would mean that basically all authors are in violation of the ASA guidelines, because they would have to mark as ad every post they do about one of their books. And I thought that comment was very funny. Should I have labeled the video that I did sharing all of my Notion databases as just one big ad? I mean, it kind of was, I guess, but also I feel like my commercial relationship with my own databases, templates that I put out there is clear. Like I'm the owner of them. Would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. And I also think it's interesting how now universities are getting involved in this as well. So the qualification isn't from the University of Essex, it's from the IAB, which is the Interactive Advertising Bureau. The University of Essex have funded some of the research, and the professor from the University of Essex in the room is one of the people who wrote the assessment for it as well. But you don't get a University of Essex qualification. You get an IAB qualification. But thanks so much for watching and coming with me to a bunch of universities and research focus group workshop-y things. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.